Go ahead, Sharon.
Good afternoon, FST, FST staff, FST students, new and returning. Welcome to our town hall. We have very, very important information that we will provide for you this evening via our dean. We have organized this session so that you'll be able to hear some information, but you can also feed back questions to us. We have our heads of department and we have our academic advisors or undergraduate coordinators who will be able to respond to some of your questions. Please know that the persons who are responding to you in the chat, they are FST faculty members. We are responding to you. We're responding to your questions and your queries, and we have been responding to your email messages that you have been sending since the orientation session this morning. We hope that so far you have been enriched and that you have been provided with a lot of information on which to chew, and you have information that you can now go ahead and begin to start making your course selections and registration. I want to bid welcome to all the parents who are here with us, all our returning students who are joining us, so that we will be able to assist you with whatever concerns you might have. Our conversation this evening is primarily about face-to-face classes and what to expect and what you need to know. Without further ado, I am going to turn over to Professor Michael Taylor. Some of you met him this morning. Professor Michael Taylor is the Dean of the Faculty of Science and Technology, and he will provide you with some information. Please keep your questions coming. Some of your questions might be answered at the end of the session by some of our heads of departments, depending on what they are and if they have not yet been answered in the chat. So sit back, relax, and listen and provide your questions when the time arrives. Professor Taylor.
Thank you very much, Dr. James Williamson. Students, parents, colleagues, friends, it is very good to have you here joining us for this afternoon, this evening's Town Hall, Faculty of Science and Technology Town Hall. Really, really happy that you could join us. We recognize that it's the beginning of a new academic year and that you do have some questions. Many of those questions, of course, will be answered at our orientation that is taking place all of this week. But I know that many of you have very specific questions about the fact that this academic year, the Faculty of Science and Technology will be trying to go face-to-face with some of its courses. Now, this does raise some concerns. And this afternoon's town hall, which will last just about an hour, we have just a limited time, about an hour, is specifically to try to answer questions about the face-to-face offerings within the faculty. So how is this going to work? Allow me to share my screen with you. I hope you are seeing my screen. So the Faculty of Science and Technology, we consider the go-to place for science, education, training, research, and solutions. Today, you are here at this virtual town hall, and this town hall is to provide information and to answer questions, to hear your questions and to answer them about what in the faculty we will be offering online versus face-to-face. So online versus face-to-face offerings in the Faculty of Science and Technology. That's what we want to deal with in the town hall. How will this town hall work? Well, I am here to tell you that we have the FST management team online to help you. Some of them are in the YouTube waiting to get your questions specific to face-to-face and online issues. And some of them are here with me so that they will answer some of the very specific questions that you may have related to face-to-face and online. I have with me the associate deans within the faculty, and for the new persons, you met them this morning. For the returning students, you know them, except for two changes. We have a new associate dean for student experience, who is Dr. Maverdeen Singh Wilmot, and a new associate dean for graduate students, who is Dr. Curtis Busby Earl. And of course, I have all the heads of departments with me or their representatives. So they will be here to answer your questions with respect to face-to-face versus online. We're going to start with a short presentation, which I will make, and hopefully that presentation may answer many of your questions. I'm going to encourage you to write questions in the chat that you may have, that you will want answered. But wait a little bit to see if the question you are asking will not be covered in the presentation. Given limited time, we're going to ask you to limit the questions to the subject of the town hall this afternoon, which is really face-to-face classes in the Faculty of Science and Technology. We have orientation going on this entire week, and I'm going to encourage you to use those other orientation sessions to ask all the other related questions, such as related to registration, overrides, errors, fee payment, etc. And if you don't know when to ask that question, you can put that question in the chat and somebody will tell you when this week you can ask those questions. Or of course, at any time you can send questions to fst@uemona.edu.jm. Information, of course, on the orientation timetable and also about what I'm going to talk about in the town hall this afternoon can also be found on the FST website, which is accessible either from the main UE webpage or at the link provided. But let's get to the task at hand. This town hall will try to answer 6 questions related to face-to-face and the online experience. Question 1, why have we decided to go face-to-face with some of our offerings? Question number 2, who will have to come face-to-face? Question number 3, when will you have to come face-to-face? So when will face-to-face begin? Question number 4, what arrangements are being made to make it as safe as possible? Question 5, what is my responsibility? That is, as a student, what is your responsibility in this whole attempt to offer face-to-face classes? And then, of course, question number 6, is there anything else that I should know? These are the 6 quick questions that I'm going to try to answer in my short presentation. And then, of course, field questions from you. So let's go quickly into it. First question, why face-to-face? Part of our mandate as a science faculty is clearly to transfer to our students some scientific skills through our teaching of scientific and laboratory skills. You can't come to the Faculty of Science and Technology and not have some particular scientific skills transferred to you. In fact, it's an expectation that anybody who graduates with a UWI BSc degree or Bachelor of Science degree, which of course, as you know, is a recognized degree by both our employers, by other universities, will have a wide range of competencies, including some competencies which are only transferable through lab experience. You come to and do chemistry, you must have at some point passed through the chemistry lab and gained a certain chemistry lab experiences. Same thing for physics, and you can go through the various sciences that we offer. It turns out then that we are now on the verge of graduating a cohort with limited or no lab experience. We therefore have to go face-to-face with the lab experience to ensure that your degree maintains the quality, maintains its integrity wherever you take it, and that what is expected of a science graduate from the UWI is what we have delivered. We need to be able to transfer to you some lab skills, and that is the reason why this particular year, though we are still in the pandemic, we have had to pivot to offer some face-to-face courses. So why face-to-face? We need to transfer some lab skills to you, our students. The second question then is, okay, if you understand that, and if you understand that we're trying to make sure you get the best experience and that your degree is in fact a degree that can stand up anywhere you go in the world, having transferred these skills to you, then who will we be asking to come face-to-face this semester? Well, some lab students for some lab components of their courses will be required to come face-to-face, but not every lab student. What do I mean? Given the national circumstance, given what I just told you about why we had to go face to face, we had to be very strategic in our planning in determining who must come back face to face. So, who have we decided will come face to face for this semester? And I should probably pause just to emphasize that what we're doing is really pointing out things for this semester. Closer to next semester, we will again have to make some decisions. But for this semester, who will come face to face? If you're a chemistry student, face-to-face students will be those with lab components in some lab courses that run from preliminary courses through to postgraduate courses. So if a chemistry prelim student will have some face-to-face experience this semester, interest student, second year student, third year student, all the way through postgraduate courses. If you are a physics, life sciences, and geography and geology student, second and third year students will have some face-to-face lab components or field trip components for some courses. Thirdly, if you are math, computing, biochemistry, and though biochemistry is not within our faculty, it's within the Faculty of Medical Sciences, we recognize that many of our students do biochemistry. All your courses, including your lab courses, will be entirely online. So right away, you will see that we have limited the number of students on campus at any given time, and also the amount of time a student has to come on campus. So the first thing I would like you to do is identify yourself in what I have presented. So first year students, only if you are doing chemistry are we requiring you to come face to face this year. Or if you are doing prelim students, same for you. If you're at upper levels, depending on the course, you will have some face-to-face components. But I can hear you asking, can you get a little bit more specific? Well, yes, we can try to get a little bit more specific. Which courses will be offered face-to-face? For this, I'm going to send you to the Faculty of Science and Technology website. The link is, of course, there. If you go on the Faculty of Science and Technology website right now, under a little section called Latest News, you will, and circled in red, you will see FST course listing delivery modality for semester 1, 2021. When you click on that, that will take you to another part of our website where you will have information about which courses will be offered face-to-face versus online. And so there's a notice that I would ask you to read through. It's very important that you read through this. And then it says, click here. When you click there, it will take you to a detailed listing by department of courses that will have face-to-face components. Here I've just brought up the top of the document, which shows for chemistry. So for example, you will see that if you are registered for Chem 0901 Prelim Chemistry A this semester, all your lectures will be online, all your tutorial streams will be online, but you will have 7 face-to-face labs this semester. All right. So, and again, this document will have by department what courses will be offered face-to-face. So I encourage you to go online and check to make sure you know whether you have a course that will be offered face-to-face, which has a component that will be offered face-to-face or will be entirely online. So remember, from the FST website, you can find out all this information. So back to who will come. Particular year groups of students will come, and you can find out what courses will be offered face-to-face, which will have face-to-face lab components. Again, we're being strategic because we have to limit the number of students on campus at any one time. And also we're trying to limit the amount of time a student has to be on campus. On that same page is a very important note. Please, students, note that the option does exist to have an incomplete grade awarded if you are unable to attend face-to-face lab sessions. So we have put in the ability for you to make a choice. If in fact you can't come to those 7 face-to-face prelim labs, or for whichever course, the number of face-to-face labs, you can still do all the online parts, the online tutorials, the online lectures, the tests, the final exam, once it's not being offered face-to-face, and take an income, and even the lab components that are online, and then you get an incomplete grade. And that grade the final grade will then be awarded when you have the opportunity to complete the face-to-face lab. That opportunity will be at the next available sitting, which may be in a subsequent semester or a subsequent academic year. So who comes face-to-face? I think we have tackled that question. Third question, when will you be required to be here face-to-face? No, not even for courses that have face-to-face lab components, not all the labs, or even for courses rather that have lab components, not all the labs in a course will be face-to-face. So you will in fact be given a schedule. So in much the same way we have broken down the courses, each course will have a schedule of which labs will be face-to-face. So please consult the course coordinator, your undergraduate coordinator, or many of you will have access to your ORVLE container where that schedule will be posted. So you're only required to be here face-to-face when that lab that is being offered face-to-face is being offered. So you will know that for some of you, there are probably, let's take that prelim chemistry course, there are probably just 7 days for the entire semester that you will be here face-to-face. We have also been very much aware of where we are in the national circumstance, try to delay as much as possible face-to-face offerings to the last week of September and the first week of October. So check that schedule, but we have delayed as much as possible. So your first time face-to-face may not be until 3 or 4 weeks down the line. No, not every single course we could do this for. Some courses are 6-week courses, and so you will have to come. But we have tried as much, and most of the face-to-face offerings are delayed until the last week of September or the first week of October. So that is when you should come face-to-face. Continuing quickly in this presentation. So what arrangements are being made to try to accommodate this face-to-face? How will we manage? I must tell you that we do have some experience offering face-to-face from last year, the last academic year. So those who are returning will know that up to a certain point in the year, we did offer in the chemistry department and some limited offerings as well in life sciences, face-to-face. So this isn't entirely new for us. And so what we could do was draw on the experience to try to make it an even safer and better experience. So departments that will be having face-to-face labs have detailed department protocols which you will be required to adhere to. These will be posted in the ORVLE containers. These will be given to you when you come or prior to your coming. And of course, most of these adhere to the national protocols as well. We ask for you to adhere to these protocols, because this is how we managed last year and we will manage. You will also meet what we call courtesy officers. Courtesy officers will be students who are put in place to do things like check temperatures, ensure that you sanitize, and try to ensure that protocols are being followed. Many of our department offices and the faculty offices will have barriers put up to protect you and to protect the staff members. We ask you to stay behind the barriers. We'll put up signage. It's signage about where you can sit, where you can stand when you're in a public place, to try as much to encourage social distancing. We'll have special sanitization points when you enter the faculty. We'll have enhanced cleaning between the labs. And of course, we're going to operate on a strict mask mandate. We're going to try as much as possible to limit gatherings. And of course, importantly, we'll try to communicate as much as possible. Let me pause here to say, therefore, your UA email becomes very important. please make sure you have access to your UE email. It is our way that we communicate with you. And of course, through the RVLE containers. And then of course, we have encouraged our staff to be vaccinated, and I would argue most of those who you will come into contact with will be vaccinated. These are some of the arrangements we are putting in place to try to ensure that you can manage. But what if you have a class before or after a face-to-face lab and don't have the time to go home in between or go home before or after or travel in between? We have tried to make arrangements. And so in addition to all of what we will do, we will have controlled opening of some of our larger lecture rooms between roughly 8 and 5. Now, these times can change and will change depending on, of course, things like the curfew. And what will happen will be that you will be able to sit socially distant, again with seats marked where you can sit, and use your laptop and take your online class there prior to or after your class, so that you don't miss it while you are traveling to your face-to-face session. In addition, the library will be open. Certain floors of the Science and Engineering Library will be open between 8:30 and 4 p.m. So that will also be a space where you can go to have your class. So you can come early enough if necessary, do your class, go to your lab, do your next class, and then safely get home. These are some of the arrangements that we are putting in place to try to ensure it will be a safe experience for you. Coming down to the end then, what about your responsibility? How can you help? The first thing I would ask is that as much as possible, please, we encourage you to get vaccinated to protect yourself, to protect your fellow students, and to protect our staff. We have encouraged our staff to be vaccinated, and for the most part, they have complied. We urge you to get vaccinated as one of the things you can do to help make this semester a safe semester. Then, of course, I urge you to follow the protocols. Set the example for others who are looking on. We encourage you in following the protocols to sanitize and wear your mask. And then we ask you to help us enforce the protocols. Of course, we don't want any confrontation. So there are courtesy officers around who can help, and security guards, but help us to enforce the protocols. We ask you not to encourage gatherings. So we know that you want to see your friends, but don't have a whole gathering of friends in the public space. Help us to make this a safe semester. If you should feel ill at any point in a lab, we ask you to of course, let the supervisor know and get medical attention. If you should test positive for COVID, we also ask you to let us know so that we can do all the necessary things, including alert other members of the class without revealing your identity, of course, and our staff. Forgive us then, lastly, that if and when we have to change these things at the last minute, we know it will cause some inconvenience, but we are also guided by the national circumstance and national the national laws and rules and regulations. So if and when we do have to change at the last minute, I ask you to forgive us. It is not that we set out to be inconvenient, but we do have to follow the national protocols. So lastly then, is there anything else that you should know about face-to-face? Well, all of these things are on the website that I had pointed you to, and we ask you to note the things. Yes, the notice, we will try to keep the notice on the website and update it periodically, but do note it's subject to change at any time depending on the national circumstance. So we encourage you to check the faculty website for updates. And of course, we will communicate with you as much as possible. If you go on that website and you look on the courses and you don't see a course listed, especially in some of the other departments, then note that that course will be offered in its entirety online. So what we have tried to list on the website are the courses that will have a face-to-face component. The option does exist to have an incomplete grade, and we have spoken about that. We urge you to consult with the undergraduate coordinators or course coordinators if you have queries. We ask you to use this information that we are being provided to make the best decision for your circumstance. So some of you will have to decide what is best for you, and this is why we are holding this town hall and giving you this information. We urge you to continuously check the UWI website. They have a COVID-19 banner at the top of the homepage, which gives you the latest updates and UI's positions. And then, of course, as I said, we encourage you to get vaccinated as soon as possible, allowing a few weeks between vaccination and the start of the semester for the vaccine to begin to work to its fullest. Lastly, I anticipate that there may be some questions that you may have. And I'll just try to answer a couple of them. One of the questions is, if you can offer face-to-face labs, then why not offer other things? We are not there yet. We have to be mindful to minimize student numbers, and some of our courses are just too large to even attempt a face-to-face offering. So for now, we just do what we must to ensure the integrity of your degree, and we will of course revise these as semesters go on. So we're not quite there yet. Two, so some of you will say, so I will have to travel in for just one lab. We are providing the information so you can make the best decision possible. You will have to decide whether, for example, that chemistry course that only has 7 travel days for the entire semester, it is better for you to just travel on those 7 days and come in rather than, for example, live on hall. All right, but we're giving you the information so you can make the best decision possible. 3, can I still come on campus even when I don't have a lab? Yes, you can. For some, we know that the home environment might not be the best environment in which to do online school. We don't encourage you to take any risks, however, for example, traveling in, that kind of thing. But the library and some lecture rooms will be open for students who do need a space to do online classes. Remember, they will be open for limited hours. If UE can mandate vaccines for halls, why not for labs? The UE position is that whereas students have other living options, unfortunately, the same options do exist for some labs. We don't have online alternatives yet, and so we have to make those labs available to all students. So as at this point, we can't mandate vaccines to do all the labs, but we strongly encourage you to be vaccinated. Can I get vaccinated on campus? Yes. Mona Aging and Wellness does offer vaccinations with an ID, and it doesn't have to be a UE ID. We encourage you to be vaccinated a few weeks before the lab. And is FST the only faculty with face-to-face offerings? No. Engineering will have some face-to-face offerings. Medical sciences will have some face-to-face offerings as well. So let me close off. This is a new year with new challenges. We're working, I think if we work together, we can make it through safely, and we can make sure that your degree is the best degree possible. We have provided all of this information, and of course, this will also be up on our website so that anybody can view it at any time. We know that you may still have some questions, so in the time we have left till 6:30, we will take some of those questions. But remember, this town hall is really just to deal with the face-to-face issues. But if you do have other questions, our team is online to direct you when you can get those questions answered. Orientation continues all of this week, and there's a slot to answer all your questions with respect to orientation. And if all of that fails, just email us, fst@uemona.edu.jn. Thank you so much. This is the Faculty of Science and Technology, the place to go for science. And so I stop now, and I'm going to ask Shireen to help us field any additional questions that maybe you may have.
Hi, Prof. Thank you for that presentation. It was very informative. It answered the the questions the students had as you went along. But as you can imagine, there are some others. We have been answering other questions as well related to courses, etc. But these relate primarily to the matter at hand, face-to-face classes. So we have two here for chemistry. A student is asking for chemistry year 2 courses, which entail field trips. Will those be occurring this semester?
All right, I'm going to ask.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Yes.
Thank you, Professor Taylor. There are some limited field trips. We will try as best as possible to offer these field trips virtually. However, there may be one or two where students would have to travel out.
While you're on the floor, Dr. Minot Cates, the next question is, will lecture courses for 2010 and 2210 be offered fully online or hybrid? I think that might be answered by a look at the pages on the web, but go ahead, Dr. Minot Cates.
All lectures and tutorials will be offered online. The laboratory classes will be dual mode. There will be some that will be face-to-face, some labs that will be virtual. Every single lab course, however, will have face-to-face, and the schedule will be circulated. It has already been sent out through the faculty. I believe the faculty has that information. The guild rep has sent that out to students, and we will post it on OUR VLE.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Minot Cates. I have a question here for biochemistry. I'm not sure. Oh yes, Dr. Lindo is here. Dr. Lindo, one student has asked these two questions. Why is biochemistry the only experimental science that isn't offered face-to-face, at least for third years? I really believe that it is a bit unfair given that current third-year students do not even have one full year of lab experience. Can you take that for us?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. We wanted to start with face-to-face, so that was our initial intentions. It was all on the books to start with all third-year courses as well as first-year courses. We had it down to actually do face-to-face labs. But with the new situation that is in place right now with 900 cases, etc., we decided that it might not be fair to you, the students, because you may come to Jamaica if you're traveling from Bahamas or Trinidad or elsewhere, and then, or you're coming in from Westmoreland and need somewhere to live, and then you have a problem and we have to stop the classes or the labs. So this is why we decided that for this semester, we will not. But I will tell you what we have in place. For those labs, we are hoping that next semester, when you are doing your labs, we are going to run some extra labs during that time to kind of take care of the ones that you will be missing in this semester, especially for third-year courses, because we know you're going to graduate and we want to send you out there with some lab experience. So we are planning labs that will incorporate this semester and next semester. So I hope that helps.
Great, Dr. Lindo. Thank you very, very much. I have another question here. Dean Taylor, this one is, what if the student is not in, and there are two questions related to this. I think you answered it in your presentation, but it's here. What if the student is not in Jamaica to do face-to-face? And a follow-up to that is, if you have to defer face-to-face labs to a later date, do you have to pay for it when registering, or would it have to be override? Would it have to override? Yeah, I think those are the two related ones.
All right.
I hope I made sense a while ago. I'm trying to read what I've copied off of the web.
No problem. Thank you very much. And thanks to the students for the questions. Right, so I think I tried to answer if you are not in Jamaica and you are unable to come to do the face-to-face lab. Remember from in my presentation, I have said that we have made arrangements for you to do every other component of the course beside those labs that are face-to-face. So even the other online labs you can register and do. You will be given what is called an incomplete grade, which means that your grade is only awaiting your doing the face-to-face components. So you will sit the exam. If it's not face-to-face, you will do everything else. And you will be given an incomplete grade. And then at the next available sitting, you will have the opportunity to do those face-to-face labs when hopefully things are much safer and you can come and do them. So I think that's the answer to the first question. The second question is, when you get an incomplete grade, you have already paid to do that course. So if you come back just to do the remaining face-to-face labs, there would not be a requirement for you to pay again for the course to do those face-to-face labs. You would simply do them, get your grade, your final grade will be computed, and it would be then put in for the incomplete would then be substituted with the final grade. So I hope I've answered the questions for the students.
Dean, I have a follow-up question. It's really related. Can I make arrangement to do my physics labs on a different campus?
So I will really hand over to Dr. Stevenson if she wants to add anything, the head of physics. There are some cases where there are equivalencies, I will say that across the board, and where those equivalencies can be established, those are worked out on a one-on-one arrangement between departments. And where they can be established and the equivalencies, yes, though that is possible. But I'll ask Dr. Stevenson if she wants to add anything else.
You've dealt with the query well, Prof. Once we have equivalencies, it can be arranged, but we just ask the students, as you have said, to contact us directly.
Great.
Prof, this is not a question from the chat, but a question I have been asked. So if I get an incomplete and the course I have the incomplete for is a prerequisite for another course, would I be allowed, could I be allowed, might I be allowed to take both courses concurrently until that component is satisfied? Are there arrangements for that kind of scenario?
So as you can imagine, there wouldn't be across the board rules there because we have to be working these on, literally a case by case basis. What I would say is that those are the kinds of discussions we will have when the case emerges within the department. Some departments will say, well, yes, you have done, if all your other grades represent a pass and what the course is a prerequisite for, you don't need the lab skills to move on. And it's very likely that you already have a passing grade. They may allow you to do both simultaneously. Bearing in mind, it's just going to be maybe 6 or 7 labs that you have to do. In some cases, however, where it is that you must have the skills to move on, it will not be possible because you need the skills, the lab skills. And of course, in cases where the lab won't help you to pass the course, really, your incomplete is just an incomplete holding a failure grade, which we hope is not the case for anybody. You certainly won't be allowed to go on.
Thanks, Prof. I have a question for life sciences. The student says in the course listing, the face-to-face courses, I don't see Biol 2402. However, on the registration, it has a physical classroom for the lab. Can anyone tell me if it will be face-to-face or not?
All right, thank you very much for that question. Biol 2402 is totally online. That's the biometric course, and there is no need for any lab. It's only a computer that we need. And so we think the students can use their own computer and we'll guide them online to get that done.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Robinson. And Prof, we have questions here, 2 questions here that I think we will have to seek information from the university and then provide it for the students. The first one is, will the student bus be available if there are face-to-face classes? And the second one, I think we've heard this one before, would the halls provide short-term stays for students who only need for short periods of time? I think
Shireen,
you will
I
have
think
to,
I
yes,
can help
Marvin.
with that. I think I can help
Awesome.
with those two. So I spoke to the Office of Student Services just now, and I put this in the chat for the students. The Office of Student Services informs us that buses will be running. There will be 2 buses running around the campus to move students around, and they will have buses running off campus. They say that the schedules will be coming out shortly, so just look out for that. With respect to the other question about short-term stays on hall, I have also spoken to the Office of Student Services on that. And at this time, they are unable to provide. And if short-term means night over, for students who are coming in for face-to-face, they are unable, and there are operational issues that would have to be worked out that really limits them from doing that. So the halls are unable to offer that at this time. However, the Office of Student Services should have a list of places around the campus that might be offering short-term stays that students can take advantage of.
Thank you, Dr. Singh Wilmot. We have just a few more. I think this might have been answered, but let me ask it nonetheless. For someone who lives all the way in Westmoreland, traveling in for labs isn't an option and halls require vaccination. Is there another option?
Right. So one of the things I have said is that, boy, we are providing the information for you to make the best decision possible. We do recognize that there is no perfect answer for that kind of question. Notice what, through my presentation, what we have done. We have tried to limit the amount of traveling that you will have to do. In some cases, it will probably be 5 travel days for the entire semester. If that is not possible, then we have had to put in place the option for the incomplete, meaning that you do everything else and you get an incomplete until you can complete those labs. I know that at the higher levels, meaning not the introductory or prelim levels, especially where the labs are smaller and can double up. I know departments are willing to work with students. They have always been willing to work with students, for example, to minimize even those 7 days to maybe 3 days. So you do labs in the morning and afternoon. But we have had to make the arrangements we have made, and we have given you the information, the best information possible, so that you can make the best decision for yourself. Always, of course, bearing in mind the need to be safe.
So, Prof, is akin to the, you want to go ahead with something, Marvadine, before the next question?
Yes, Dr. James Williamson, thank you very much. We have to inform those students who are depending on the UE bus service. I have information here once again from the Office of Student Services that they will be needing their IDs. I did see a question in the chat about students, if students would have to pay or they need their IDs. So this one I think is for Sherry. I had to disconnect from the YouTube to say to everybody that you do need your UE IDs to access the bus service.
And we should add that it's free. There's no charge to take the bus around the UE campus.
Right, Prof. That's what I mean. So all you need is your UE IDs.
Right.
Dean, I'm on YouTube, sorry. Sorry, colleagues. So this one, I think we have also answered, but I'm going to ask it because students like when their questions are asked. So I have labs in the first week of school, apparently, I can't come to Jamaica in a week with no planning. Do I just miss it? I think you dealt with that, Prof, but maybe you want to say it in another way.
I would also, even, well, I first of all encourage the students to really get in touch with the department. I strongly doubt that they actually have a lab in the first week, but I can't say no. Maybe there might be a lab, but I think we have dealt with that. Make the arrangements, speak to the department, speak to the course coordinator. When you get here, there can be arrangements made if you have missed that one lab, and it is convenient and possible for you to make it up. But I strongly doubt that you will have that lab in the very first week.
Dr. Minot Cates, you wanted to add something?
Thank you, Dr. James Williamson. Just to indicate that certainly for the Department of Chemistry, we have ensured that for the first 3 to 4 weeks of our lab program, all of our labs are offered online. And so students would not expect to have a face-to-face lab before about the end of September, beginning of October. However, they would be having online labs, which they are expected to log into and to complete and submit their lab reports.
I have responded to a couple of questions similar to that, Dr. Minot Cates, indicating that the students go to their first class or check with their with the course guidance documents in OURVLE in the coming week, just to see, or in the later days, just to see what arrangements have been made. But a lot of the intricate details about how things will be organized will be communicated once you have your set of classes, or at least once you attend your first class or first session of your program. There has been several questions about face-to-face exams, and people are expressing shock and panic. Prof, you want to say anything? I could say something, but you want to go ahead first?
Sure. So the university has already made some statements about the need for face-to-face exams. And, there will, in fact, the university is going to put out quite a bit more in terms of information about, answering some of the questions about why we have to go for face-to-face, including, of course, things like protecting the integrity of the degree that students are doing. But the university will put out a lot more information. What I would like to say is that it is necessary for some of our courses to go to face-to-face exams. And telling you early is the way that university would like to deal with this situation. No, going face-to-face exams, in much the same way that we have put out the list of courses that will have face-to-face labs, very soon, but certainly before the mid-semester, you will know which courses will have face-to-face exams. Some of our courses have adapted well to the online experience and have changed out their whole modality of being examined to things like coursework and online things. And so they will not be included in the face-to-face exams. And so I would urge students to wait a little bit to see which courses will be offered face-to-face. And I assure you, you will know much in the same way in advance so that preparations can be made. But yes, some courses will have face-to-face exams, and that is necessary to protect the integrity of our degree.
And last but not least, from what I have here, and then I'll ask Dr. Singh-Wilmot to join in. Dr. Robinson, someone wants to know if BOTN 2402 will be offered this semester.
Uh, 2402, yes. It will be. It will be offered. We're having some challenges in terms of who will deliver, but I can promise to resolve that in a couple of days, and it will be offered.
Can you confirm the modality, Dr. Robinson?
it is going to be just as others. It's going to have some face-to-face.
Face-to-face component. Okay. For those in the chat, if you didn't hear clearly, BOTN 2402 will be offered this semester. They're working out some kinks, but it will be offered and it will have some face-to-face components. Dr. Singh Wilmoth, please go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. James Williamson. So on the matter of the bus and certainly on the matter of the exams being face-to-face again, the question of IDs and ID processing comes up, and a lot of students and their parents are now wondering about this. So again, the FST is trying to get all of this information for you so that your experience will be more pleasurable, and we are hearing from the university that they will contact you via emails about the processing of your IDs. Thank you.
Right. Thanks very, very much. Colleagues, I think we've exhausted the questions related to face-to-face that I have from the chat. Let me just give it one last quick scan through. But last time I checked, I think we were. All right. I think we are there, Prof. We have managed to answer all of the face-to-face questions, and we have colleagues who have been answering the other questions in the chat. And I might urge all our students, if you have additional questions, please send them to fst@uwimona.edu.jm. I hope somebody in the chat will type that in, and that our students will continue to use that email address for us. Prof, any closing remarks before we end our session?
Sure. Let me just say thanks very much, first of all, to the FST management for coming on, and FST entire team, the undergraduate coordinators, the heads of departments, the associate deans, for coming on and answering the students' questions. Thanks to you, the students, and to your parents for coming on and for asking the questions. We understand that it's a challenging time and that there are going to be these kinds of questions, and we're committed to trying to make the experience you have while a part of the Faculty of Science and Technology a good one. We look forward to a great semester. Please, our lines are open. You have heard it. fst@uwimona.edu.jm. Any question you have, just shoot the question and we'll do our best to answer it. Let's have a very good year. Thanks, everybody, and good evening.
Awesome. Thank you, Prof. And remember, we have our session starting at 9 tomorrow morning. Dr. Singh Wilmoth, you have the last word on that.
Thank you, Dr. James Williamson. We need everyone to come out and find out about the things we're offering, the scholarships, the opportunities for internships, the FST programs for enhancing the total you. See you at 9 a.m. tomorrow. We have the bursary, we have the university's health center, because all of us need to be looking on not just our academic progress, but our physical and mental health. We have those tips for you. We have the Office of Student Financing. We have careers and placement. So we have the total you covered. 9 a.m. sharp, everybody. Have a good evening.
And good evening, everybody. Thank you very, very much. And once again, thank you for making the